Oh my God, if I die, I'm a legend. When they lay me down to rest, I know I was always repping. Oh my God, my whole life.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy FizzyG here, and welcome back to another edition of the CSGO Pro Team World Power Rankings. Today I will be counting down the top 10 teams in the world as of June 2016. So this means the top 10 teams in the world as we speak. So the day I'm recording this, which is June 5th, 2016, and it goes without saying, this list is subject to change over time. For those of you that are new here, I do a power ranking every 3 months, as that is about the amount of time it takes for the CSGO landscape to change. Speaking of which, boy has it changed since the last power ranking, and if you would like to see the March 2016 power ranking, you can go ahead and click the annotation listed above if you would like to see how things have changed over the past 3 months. Now before we get started, I would just like to let the fanboys know that I will indulge them in the comment sections if they choose to debate me and or flame me on one of my picks. So if you disagree with me, go ahead and leave a comment and I will do my best to counter whatever claim you may have. Alright guys, now that we got that brief little intro out of the way, let's begin. Coming in at number 10, we have Team Liquid. Now, this should feel like a good ranking for Team Liquid. You know, like a feel-good thing. They're probably the first North American team to ever come close to cracking the top 10, and at the last major, NLG Columbus, they were the first North American team, along with CLG, to get out of the group stages, much less make it to the second round of the majors playoffs, which they did. Liquid was just 2 very close games away from beating Luminosity, who was the eventual victor of the major, to advance to the finals. This run should give the team and the fans hope for what these North American upstarts can accomplish in the future. And yes, their recent placings have shown that they are on the rise. Top 4 finish at DreamHack Austin, top 4 finish at MLG Columbus obviously, and 5th at ESL Pro League Season 3. All signs would point to potential on this Team Liquid, however, all is not well as it seems. Simple, the team's toxic yet star player, has recently announced that he will be leaving Liquid. Simple cited that the team was rolling with Kusta as its primary opper rather than him, and what was the point if he was not going to be the primary opper. And also, this is off the record, but I think it was also that nobody on the team really wanted him there anyways, as he was extremely toxic. Simple does have a point, as Kusta is the inferior opper in this case, and this will be a major blow for Team Liquid. Liquid will need to unlock Kusta's potential, which has so often flashed before, if they are to remain relevant and hold a spot in the top 10. Coming in at number 9, we have Envious. Holy shit, was I wrong about this team. Last month's power rankings had this team at number 2, and I can be quoted as saying, "I don't believe Envious will ever fall out of the top 3, much less the top 2. Well, I'm gonna come out and say this right now. Envious has legitimately shit the bed the last 3 months and played like absolute fucking butthole. These were the French world beaters, the anti-Fnatic antidote. Yet what remains does not resemble the Envious we grew to know and love. Envious did not even win a single game at MLG Columbus and were knocked out in the group stages. And it's not like they had an especially strong group. I mean, it was populated by CLG, Astralis, and Gambit Gaming. I mean, who even is Gambit Gaming? They should at least have been able to win a single game out of that group, and yet Envious did not. Their recent placings have left them looking precarious, and save DreamHack Malmo have been all pretty awful. IEM X World Championship, they got a top 12 finish there, they got a top 8 finish at Counterpit Season 2, and they got out of the group stages in MLG Columbus. Their top 4 finish at Malmo and their best of 3 win over Dignitas narrowly keeps them in this spot, and I will also give them a little bit of leniency, perhaps a little bit too much on my part, for the fact that the history is there and I'm going to trust them, but they really do need to step it up if they want to keep my trust. So this team is just so frustrating to watch because it has all the pieces and the talent is all there. I mean, I've never seen a team that has been stacked with such talent fall so low. I mean, it's just like each player on the team is capable of carrying, and even though they no longer have Kiyoshima, it's not like he was a vital part of their team anyways. I mean, despite this loaded roster, somehow Envious is playing like complete dog shit. Envious needs to get their shit together, or they could slide clean off the top 10 in the next edition of the Power Rankings. So, next up on the list of former super teams gone bad, we have Virtus.pro. The Poles found themselves with an upstart first placing at StarLadder I-League Invitational over Navi in the finals, and the results seem to indicate Virtus was perhaps finally exiting their awful slump which seemingly had them in a vice grip since last January. However, after the tournament, the Poles continue submitting subpar placings in major tournaments. Before the tournament, VP had been hitting dud after dud in tournaments, and it seemed they were in very real danger to fall off the top 10. However, this result has vindicated and saved them from that peril for the next 3 months, and has actually given them a rise of 1 spot since the last Power Rankings. However, Virtus.pro is still plagued by their horrid online play, which is rather odd considering most teams experience trouble with the offline side of things. Furthermore, Snax is no longer the world beater which he had emerged as in 2015, and has taken a serious drop in his player rating. For those unfamiliar with the metric, player rating is an advanced statistic which calculates how much a given player positively affects his team. And for the past 3 months, Snax is posting an average 1.02 player rating, which has been steadily declining since April last year, where he posted a staggering 1.22 player rating, which again, for those unfamiliar, is an astoundingly high mark. However, things are looking up for VP, as Snax's player rating is actually beginning to increase this year, coming back from the abysmal 0.87 player rating he posted back in January, which is awful, and he is steadily making a comeback along with the rest of the VP team. I think we are witnessing a mild resurgence from VP, and they could make a comeback into a respectable team. However, they are no longer the Virtus.pro of old, which makes opponents quake in their boots at the sight of them on the circuit. But who knows, they can make a comeback, as there is another team coming later in this list which has seemingly come back from the dead. So, only time can tell for VP. With a newcomer to our list, number 7, Tempo Storm, or the former Tempo Storm, they are now known as Immortals. So I'd like to personally welcome to my top 10 the Immortals lineup, formerly of Tempo Storm. Another Brazilian team has stormed onto my power rankings, and yes, pun included, and seemingly come out of nowhere, already passing up 3 teams on its way through the door. The storyline of this team reminds me very much so that of Dignitas, who, by the way, have actually fallen off the top 10 since the last edition, so maybe that's not a good parallel to draw. And I can draw many parallels between the two. Both were teams constructed out of the supposed leftovers of a certain scene, and in this case the Brazilian scene rather than the Danish scene for Dignitas. And they've somehow exploded and become legitimate upset threats. The team is centered around the Starlight consistent play of Bolts, who has improved tremendously since Luminosity dropped him. Bolts is coupled with Hen 1, who is a wildcard potential walking highlight reel, and Phelps, whose raw and unadulterated potential is astounding. Whilst Showtime can be a liability at times and Lucas 1 is meh, the consistent play of Bolts and the potential that Phelps and Hen 1 have shown us has kept this team afloat through many tournaments, and it has proved with many good placings. Whilst the team has a litany of high placings and events with lesser teams, such as 2nd place at the America's Minor Championship Cologne and 1st at RGN Winter Classic, they also have placings in legitimate tournaments to prove that they are for real, such as 2nd place at DreamHack Austin, where they were knocked out by their world-class counterparts in Luminosity. And whilst these placings have been very good, the team still needs to focus on having a consistent map pool and being able to close out games much stronger, as these have both been issues which have hounded them from rising further in the rankings. Coming in at 6, we have G2. Now, G2 has climbed 3 spots up the list, passing by countryman Envious on the way. And when you boot your world-class in-game leader in the team and replace him with a generally unproven young talent, your team is really not supposed to get better. However, in this case, with a team kicking out Existence and replacing him with Body, the exact opposite seems to have occurred. Existence was kicked most likely due to his leading style having worn out its welcome, and most likely also Shox wanting to take over in-game leading duties. This team not wanting to have to let go Shox, as that would also mean letting go Smiths, as he always goes wherever Shox goes, decided to bite the bullet and go with a risky move and kick Existence. Replacing him with Body was probably the counteract to the team's seeming decline, with old veterans no longer being their former self, by injecting some youth into the team. Surprisingly enough, the idea seems to have worked, and G2 find themselves posting decent results at world-class tournaments once more. G2 claims 2nd at the ESL Pro League Season 3 finals, 4th at ESL Pro League Season 3 Europe stages, and a top 2 finish at Esports Championship Series Season 1 Europe qualifier. These results are somewhat counteracted by their flop at DreamHawk Malmo being knocked out in the group stages. However, G2 seems to be on the rise, and they could be onto something by adding Body to their core of players and consolidating Shox as the in-game leader. Since March 9th, when they dropped Existence and added Body and made Shox in-game leader, Shox's player rating has spiked up to 1.20, a very impressive mark, and Body has shown flashes of brilliance and could potentially become a talent in the French scene. Furthermore, we could begin to see quite a few, or we have rather begun to see quite a few vintage Scream performances, where his aim has been monstrous like the days of old. In the past 2 weeks, albeit a small sample size, Scream has posted an absolutely astonishing 1.30 player rating, which is astounding, and he has 72.6% headshot percentage, which is just, wow, absolutely incredible. In the past 3 weeks, RPK, Shox, and Scream are all in the top 5 of the world for player ratings, and that is a very encouraging sign that G2 could potentially be on the rise. Coming in at number 5, we have Astralis. Astralis seems to be forever stuck in an endless cycle of slightly above average mediocrity. They're constantly placing in top 4s or the rare final of a big event, yet they can seemingly never place first. Or lately, it's been even a struggle to place second for them. So far in 2016, Astralis has seen more top 4 rankings than any other team I've ever seen, and thus the excruciating cycle of mediocrity continues, which is even more self-evident by the fact that Astralis remains in the exact same spot that they had the last power rankings. Meanwhile, countless other teams have shuffled around. In the last edition of the Power Rankings, I said that Astralis was probably not going to make any changes because they were just good enough that it didn't warrant a roster change. However, they were never going to be good enough to take the next step. To their credit, the team is actually proving wrong by dropping Cajun B and adding Kirby to their lineup. Now, this is a risky move, but it shows Astralis is not going to settle for the status quo and are trying to break through to the next tier. Whilst Astralis has been knocked out of the group stages in the last 2 events, these seem to be anomalies, and I will let Astralis keep their spot due to their overwhelming number of top 4 finishes this year. However, with the new player Kirby on the block, I want to see Astralis show us results. Otherwise, we could see them sliding in the future editions of the Power Rank. Number 4, Fnatic. Last time I had these rankings, Fnatic was on the top of the figurative CSGO world, and were exerting a level of unprecedented dominance which rivaled that of the 82-0 Ninjas in Pajamas run, and they seemingly could not be beaten. Flash forward 3 months later, and my, how times have changed. Olafmeister has been sidelined by a wrist injury, which his doctor still cannot currently diagnose, and as a result of this injury, Fnatic's run of dominance has officially been ended, and they're immortal once again. At first, the Swedes tried to input Pleasant into the lineup as a stand-in, however that turned out to be god-awful, and instead have decided to plug in Wenton into the lineup and have found mild success. Fnatic's first place at IEM X World Championships, where they swept Luminosity out of a final and managed to only drop 1 game the entire tournament to Astralis in a very stacked tournament. So that is a very nice placing. And the Swedes snagged a top 4 finish at ESL Pro League Season 3 finals, but also a letdown exit in the top 8 range in MLG Columbus. So Fnatic is a respectable team. However, this injury has exposed the glaring dependency this team has on Olafme. Perhaps better put would be how really fucking good Olafmeister is at this whole CSGO thing. So much so that his mere presence can carry a team to be one of the most dominant in the history of the game. For now, it looks like Fnatic has until Friday, June 3rd, which will probably already have happened when this video goes up, to decide whether they will choose to use Olofmeister or Wenton in the ESL Cologne 2016 major. This poses a really difficult question for Fnatic, as it should be easy to see why this is a difficult decision. They have no idea if Olofmeister will be ready in time, but if he is, it would be a big waste to play without him. However, all signs point to the fact that they're probably stuck with Wenton for the time being, and Fnatic will need to get better at playing without the best player in the world. Coming in at number 3, we have the Ninjas in Pajamas. Now, never did I think I would see the day when the Ninjas would resurge back into the top 5, but here we are. Seemingly out of nowhere, NIP has worked their voodoo magic, and all of a sudden, Geralt looks like a star player again. Forrest can actually op, and Pith has rounded into a solid contributor. As Thorin would say, it can only be described as nip magic.
I coined this term nip magic to kind of describe the kind of weird zone that seems to arise when NIP gets deep into a tournament. We're talking like semi-finals, final, where suddenly a lot of factors which in everyday life, sort of the averages, how things play out by the numbers, suddenly seem to get affected by some kind of aura from the NIP players and the NIP team where it warps reality a bit.
The Ninjas stormed into the scene with a first placing at DreamHack Malmo, where they swept Navi out of the tournament with dazzling play, then a first placing at ESL Pro League Season 3 Europe, and topped it off with 2 top 4 finishes, one in ESL Pro League Finals, and one in the Esports Championship Series. It's been quite a long time since the Ninjas have come even close to being a top 10 team, and just 3 months ago they were not anywhere near my list. So how did all of a sudden a team seemingly aging and decrepit come back from the dead, basically, to seize their CSGO crowns once more? Well, it starts and ends with the addition of the new coach, Threat. The Ninjas have abandoned their puggy playstyle that seems to have plagued their matches, and instead, Threat has instituted a much more tactful and strategic playstyle. Since Threat joined them as coach, he made a revolution in the team. Basically, Nip started from scratch. He recreated all the strats, defaults, etc., and as you can see, it has worked wonderfully for the team so far. Coming in at number 2, we have Navi. Now, Navi is right where we left them just a couple months ago, but all things considered, that's not a bad place to be at all. There was a brief 2-week period where Navi was probably the best team in the world. However, the curse of the runner-up has seemingly struck them again, and they have settled in nicely at the number 2 spot in the world. Their recent form has littered with high placings. IEM X World Championship, they got a top 4 finish there. They placed first at Counterpit Season 2, and they got second place at the Major in MLG Columbus, second place at DreamHack Malmo as well, and second place at Starladder iLeague Invitational. I don't know about you, that is quite the studded rap sheet for Navi to sport. Not much has changed since we last saw Navi. In fact, it really is a lot more much of the same for the team. Guardian continues to exert dominance with his op in the way that only he can. Seized remains a viable starter pair with Guardian, and Zeus and Edward persist as solid contributors. Navi just has to keep doing what it's been doing, because they've shown us time and time again that they are now synonymous with being top 3 in the world. I would say that I could not envision Navi falling out of the top 5, but after Envious's ungraceful fall from the top, I cannot be certain with any team anymore. However, I am confident Navi can keep doing much of the same as they have been, and they'll do just fine. Coming in at number 1, I have Luminosity Gaming. Welcome to the upper room, Luminosity. You finally made it. Have yourself a drink, sit back and relax, cause you've earned it. Luminosity has completed a fairy tale in the pro CSGO scene, bringing a true meaning to the phrase "from rags to riches." It was only a couple months ago that this team was barely struggling to find funding due to the small market of Brazil, and now they are the premier team in the world. Allow me to lay down the facts. Luminosity has placed first at Pro League Season 3 Finals and first at DreamHack Austin and second at IEM X World Championship. To further cement their first place, they placed first at the major MLG Columbus. Still don't believe me? Allow me to back it up with some statistics. coldzera has the third best player rating in CSGO right now with 1.25 in the last 3 months, and both players before him play on third tier teams and thus have inflated stats. coldzera has the highest KD in the past 3 months in all of CSGO, and Fallen has the third highest. Fallen is the first in the world in clutches won in the past 3 months. coldzera is also third in damage differential in the past 3 months, and again, all those before him reside on third tier teams, inflating their stats. And whilst the 2 stars on the team, Fallen and coldzera, have been stuffing the stat sheet, meanwhile, Fur and FNX have been filling their roles respectively. Fur, as the entry fragger, is second in total opening kills, and FNX as a support player has the third most amount of assists of the past 3 months in the world. That's the kind of stat pool you want the best team in the world to support. Whilst Luminosity seems to be going through quite a bit of drama recently with the whole SK Gaming debacle, let's hope it doesn't get in the way of their play, as that part of them has been rather outstanding as of late. The last time we did these rankings, Luminosity was looking in from the 4th place, attempting to claw their way into the elite tier of contention into that upper echelon. As for now, they've made it, and they're the best team in the world. Alright guys, those were my power rankings for the month of June 2016. Tell me what you thought in the comments, and be sure to leave a like. It'll help a small guy like me grow. And I'll be back with another one of these episodes in September. As always, stay fizzy, my friends, and I will see you on the flip side.
From the person he loved the most. Sometimes when you win, you lose.